Yeah, sorry.
I'm here with Azabua Utukku, or in Lisbuma, Kav Ukimulp, Alam Furiora, Will Ezevmurger Ul. I remember the one Riora is devil and Ezevmugger is metal. Don't remember the rest right now, but so okay, where did you want to start off? I forget where we left off.
Yeah, we were just on the subject of
Oh, Joyce Santon, yeah.
Maxine Dietrich. Yeah.
And I think I
Um,
was about to interrupt you to just say that that like yeah, backstories and groups. Of course, the big one that throws people off, like the EA Quetting thing. Um, he said, "Oh yeah, my backstories are not true, but the real thing, you wouldn't believe the real thing." It's like, really? Like a 12-year-old, like a 12-year-old randomly selected in Utah to be the head of some secret cult from all this time, and you're shown all this stuff and this secret language, but you don't know how to read it and you're not sure what it looks like and that sort of stuff.
sounds like Mormonism.
And there's a bunch of other stuff. He kind
Is,
of does that. Like one of the things I brought up in my interviews is like
it's his background.
someone needs to do a Book of Mormon Satanism thing. Multiple people in his group that's been part of the background is the Latter-day Saint in Utah. Um,
Well, honestly, their whole idea about having your own planet kind of sounds anti-cosmic in this weird sort of way. Except, although I guess then you would just be the demiurge. Anyway.
that's sort of what it comes off as you're basically the
Um,
false god of your own world, and you get there for being such a good Christian.
which is also a lot like the New Age. Get back to them, but
Um,
anyway, I was just saying earlier.
oh, and of course Joseph Smith,
So
he redid
sorry.
the Freemason stuff as a secret Christian ritual.
Oh well, there you go, and of course it all ties back to the Masons. Um, but
I
yeah,
kind of, I kind of
the
like, I kind of
the
like
reason I
what
bring that up,
Albert Pike did back in the 1800s, bringing more religions into the mix. But
well, it's interesting that Joy of Satan has this whole anti-Kabbalah stance, but they're apparently okay with Albert Pike. Apparently, they think he's just fine, but the rest of the Freemasons are bad,
and
even
if
though
they're
he
and if they're going to be
said
racist,
Kabbalah is at the heart of Freemasonry.
and if they're going to be racist, it doesn't really work too. People can say, "Oh, well, he was in the no." As a Klansman, he used his position to give black people opportunity in a time of prejudice. So Albert Pike's not an example of somebody for a bunch of racists.
Well, and of course they don't care about any of that. He could be Jewish, and they will say that he was a Jewish soul, or sorry, an Aryan soul in a Jewish body. They'll make up anything that boost, like they said about Zechariah Sitchin, until they decided they don't like him. Same with Anton LaVey. Uh, People will just adapt whatever
And
works
some
with their
stuff it doesn't.
pre-existing worldview a lot of the
And
time.
some stuff it doesn't matter, but there's the arguments about it anyways, like how many sleepers of the cave, or how many like 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 the Order of Nine Angles. There's like, okay, is David Mites and Anton Long and some other name, are they same person? It doesn't matter. It's like, what happened if Aleister Crowley wasn't out in the open? You'd probably have 10 different possible Aleister Crowleys, and people weren't sure how many was the real Aleister Crowley. I don't think there was that few magical names he took on, but and one of the things in the chat you
Well,
mentioned was,
I I do get having a lot of names. Can't be very critical, hypocritical.
Well,
But
sometimes
sorry,
it's
continue.
like a different name. It's like I'm fine with that. Myself, okay, yeah, definitely. I've been Jafar Sapnu for since. Uh, Actually, I'm not sure if it was the complete name, September 23rd, 2000, but you know that ever since, and there's been some other names since. I used to have I used to have my British name on. It's like, and it's like I knew they were, you know. Well, some of it it's not like I was signing paperwork and making business deals with it or something, right? Um, but yeah, things have their purpose. Sometimes you want a different name, different group, you know. Um, I even have a name I go by when I go if I know that someone's a rabbi or something, I'll even go by that name. I mean, I
My
don't
only
I don't
problem is when it's used deceptively.
yeah. It's like that.
My only
That's
problem
one of the
is
things
when
too is that people think it's like the whole insight role thing. You don't have to actually lie. People just whatever they assume, and you don't feel have to whatever, and you don't have to be as specific with a lot of things as people think you might. Like I joined a New Age cult. Ekankar is one of the New Age cults that I ended up joining. I never joined as a believer, but they never actually told you that you had to believe per se. They said you could graft it onto your other religion or whatever, and they basically psychologically threatened you and stuff like this if you broke the if you whatever, but they never made you they didn't even make you promise technically not to reveal anything. They
it's
just
not religious, it's spiritual.
yeah it's not it's and it's like no it's as dogmatic as anything. That's the big warning sign when out front they're like, oh, we're not dogmatic, and it's like they're almost always more than most of the groups that you go to. Go to the nearest church, it probably will
Well,
not be.
that's how these people are, these types of people, uh, you know, I don't know what you would call all of them collectively, but they're masters at deceptive language. It's like I was talking about before with wilderness therapy. They'll come up with these terms like spiritual. There is no, at least as far as I can tell, there's fundamentally no difference between spiritual and religious in the sense that, it always involves some sort of higher power, worshiping that higher power. They frame it to you as, oh well, but it's not it's not like the Catholic Church, it's not like a whole institution, but it is an institution. It's just a bunch of different smaller
And then they're
institutions. That doesn't
like,
make it a different thing.
it's not like tithing. We don't charge as much. That's the thing. They want you make it feel like a bargain. Um, but I think of the term religion, like religion. I don't want to think of it as churchy, but it's a connection to something more than just material. Um, and it's more than just like a building. So it's supposed to be what you're doing, what sort of a life sort of path, rather than just here's a building that you're a member of. I don't know where I was going with that.
Sure, I mean, but like everything's a lifestyle choice for
Yeah.
most people. I think. I think I mean, at least what I see of like Christian social media, it's a lot of lifestyleism. It's look at how fun this Christian party is where no one does drugs.
Well, have you ever seen that
Look at
video
us
that's
Christians hiking in the woods.
have you ever seen that video, The God Who Wasn't There?
Is that like one of those like old atheist videos from back in the day? I could be out of the loop on that.
I guess so. Now it turns out a lot of the people like the guy who used to like speak on like these documentaries on the History Channel and stuff like this. They had this one guy there. Oh, I forget his name, but he starts off. The video starts off. It's like, oh, look at all these Christians, how happy they are. It's like I want to be happy like that. And but basically, it's like, is it worth it to lie? And then again, it's like, but there's the other Christians too. And he goes over his thing like that. And the thing he
Oh, it's a documentary.
yeah, it's sort of a documentary. He returns to the place where he went to the Christian academy that he went to, and he's like, no, you're tricking the thing. And then on the way out, he does okay, if he just said, I deny the Holy Spirit or something on the way out, okay, that's one thing. But the the obscene jokes about a gay Satan and stuff like that, or a gay that was kind of not necessary, but you know, that spirit, it's like you want to be happy and just like the whole thing be a lie. And I don't think that it necessarily makes a person happy either.
Yeah. Well, it always strikes me as this very fake happiness that they're trying to portray to you
Like they get
to,
you in with it. It's
like,
like
again,
one of the things
it's
about,
lifestyleism.
it's
It's
like one of the
advertising.
things that I like, since conspiracy or whatever has been brought up. It's like, okay, but we're still all responsible for whatever we're capable of believing or doing or whatever. We're still within our abilities that are left that aren't oppressed or whatever. We still have responsibility. And that's one of the things that Christianity gets at people with, is they try to say, oh no, Jesus will pay for it. And then they start telling you those verses about how you have to prove your conversion through your behavior. And so you still have to do all the stuff, like, for example, like that the Jews would do. Technically, the Bible says that the law is restored and refurbished. It doesn't say it doing away with it. So all that other stuff you're still supposed to do. So it doesn't end up being this thing that, oh, you just, claim it and it's yours. You still have to do the work, but they get you in, they get, well, I mean, they get, I was raised LDS, for example. And I was exposed to other churches. I really didn't feel like leaving one church to go to another church. I had problems with the whole thing. Well, not the whole thing. No one's all wrong. But anyways, you were saying,
What was I saying? Sorry.
well, actually,
Um,
I don't think it was real much of an eruption. I just, you know, we're just saying that, about how the Christian thing sort of comes off as fake, even if you don't know that it was invented as fake. And we talked about joy of Satan, and
yeah. I mean, essentially, where I was getting to with that is also what will actually happen to an organization like Joy of Satan, were something like the Third Reich to come into power again. I don't think it would look very good for them. At least their
yeah.
followers, because
You look at what's
as far as
happened,
I can tell, the whole thing is an appropriation of the NSM, the National Socialist Movement, the American organization.
and the well, like, and no, that's not actually the phrase is a project. The connection to the whole term, 14 words, I didn't know that whatever, but this is what came to my mind. But I was probably exposed to it, so my mind probably just skipped over the whatever and came up with a different version at some point. But
David Lane, the pedo.
and yeah, I definitely, that's, as I'm saying, one of the things,
Sorry.
one of the three things now, that I do agree with the death penalty is any of that stuff with pre-adolescents done. That should be. I criticize the government for not making that a death penalty crime. I'm not saying vigilante.
Because they're in on it.
I criticize the government for it. What?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, well, because everyone in the government's in on that whole business. No, but I do agree with you.
I do know they tied that one person, that one 10-year-old that visited a certain president and was part of the photo shoot and was actually in Epstein Island, and but that's kind of but yeah, that's
Well, there is a lot of that in National Socialism. It seems to be a very rampant problem. Uh, Other than David Lane, the first one that comes to my mind was Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter. Uh, they read his search histories out to the whole court about how he wanted to watch little girls pee. There was one associated with National Action. There was a local kid who was associated with that 09A branch 764. There
Yeah, that
was
was the particular whatever. But one of the things that people don't get with
a
some of
guy
the
running for
stories,
Congress.
like if you've read the story that I've made this meme for, that they don't,
Oh yeah,
it doesn't,
I haven't. I've only seen the listing on eBay.
uh, uh, what?
Oh, just I've only seen a listing for that book on eBay.
And so the thing about this is that it's like it actually doesn't favor that character. It shows the breakdown of how somebody ended up in that position and what they do to him as a result. So it's not whatever. And yes, some of the conspiracy that they bring out actually ends up connecting to some sort of truth, but the idea, you got to be stupid to think that some of this sinister fiction, you got to be idiotic to think that either it's true or that the whole point, like the same journal will say, here's a story where this happens, but then at the end there's another story where the people who do that are killed. So I mean, it's fiction. There's other points with it. Um, like I
The
find all
only
sorts of
problem though is that reality seems to be against that. Like the problem is that there's all these people associated with different Nexions who are doing that stuff. And it's not just the
oh
hardcore people. It's this alt right circus too. Milo Yiannopoulos,
yeah.
probably Nick Fuentes, like Matt
Well, that's the thing.
Walsh.
It's like
All these people, they're pedophiles.
yeah, I know there's been people that too. The which sent so many groups have that's been an issue. Um, well, I mean, at least there's been somebody in the group, and then that becomes an issue. Um, I understand why, like for example, the Org 9 stuff is almost all off. It's not for sale anymore. Um, I mean, it's posted online, but but I saw before my Instagram was shut down, I saw that guy's account. That one guy that made the news because him posting, bragging about what was on his computer from that seven. I forget the number of it. I never made any connections with those people because I noticed there was something more to it.
Probably didn't take much.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that guy posting online bragging about that. It's like, okay, I'm staying completely clear of this. Um,
This is what happens when you dumb down Satanism to just evil good,
well,
frankly.
the thing too, it's like in The Power of Myth, if you've ever seen that Joseph Campbell series, it appeared when I was a kid. Um, it's he said everything's evil to somebody. So if you really want, it's like, why are you letting, if these people are the mundane people and you don't want to be the mundane, why are you letting your sense of evil and good be defined by them? So it's really more from a different angle that a person should be going about, right?
I I mean, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze people I don't know. All I can say is that um in general, the tendency to take on a, again, evil is great kind of ideology is just that you come out with really well, it's kind of like unironically taking up an ideology like nihilism or I don't know, anti-natalism. It's like the result of your ideology is not really like doesn't really result in anything outside of, I mean, in their case of just doing things that the wealthy, elite, powerful people do every day and don't get caught doing it, and then they just do that and get caught doing it. As far as I can tell,
Well,
the only real world
that's what I've
result
noticed.
of
How
this
some of the
behavior.
stories, it's like the EA Quetting was more or less, first of all, because his cult where he got people to worship himself, they thought that that was ridiculous, so they didn't want to be associated with that anymore. Um, the OAA, or I think those were the letters of EA Quetting's cult, but the it's like some of the stories people think, oh well, you know, if I can just join this group I can get into that, and then there's some FBI agent that catches the conversation and starts communicating to them themselves, and or CIA or whatever, and then that ends up being you know, then they're locked up and they didn't even do anything.
I mean, I've heard some Niners talk about the Code of Kindred Honor. I've read it and I didn't really see anything in it that would specifically uh go against that. But if there's an interpretation of it, then that would be a Niner who I would relatively support. I mean, you know, they say a lot of very silly things about uh the 2-8 current, and there's those videos of TOB guys shooting up a quote unquote Canite altar. So you know, I'm not really trying to support that organization. I
Well,
guess
one
just
of the things that
it's
happen, like one thing that's particularly dangerous is this idea. It's like each magic. It's like somebody wants you to magically charge a weapon, or wants to connect some of your current some of your, and it's like, yeah, but then they might use it, and then that weapon shows up. Um, or one of the things is that there's people who come back from war and their service weapon, then they kind of, you know, trade those off. Um, But then again, you don't know if that's their service weapon or something they used for something else. But yeah, some of those
yeah. I mean,
stories.
I don't really know a whole lot about the military stuff.
But
I know
because
they're
that's
not
one
the
of the
only
things in
people.
Temple of Blood they very much recommended, is that if you're going to do stuff, you know, since especially because you don't want to get caught, it's like there are police and military roles that you can take on to carry out the physical forms of those in literal sense. Um, but you know,
It just doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really appeal much to me. The, those actions are what I despise about those people. Not actions I'm trying to emulate. But
but a lot of stuff was
uh,
just the
I will
opposite.
say though, then there is the other side of that, which is just when you become a big mama's boy and like all of Satanism becomes just like a propaganda wing of the Democratic Party. You know, I'm not saying that that's not real and that they're not right to point out the, I guess you could call, castrated
So
nature of a lot of
temple,
modern Satanist
satanic
organizations.
temple, right? That's what comes up because the posts that I see online definitely
Yeah, they would be.
is that
Well,
somehow some
it's
sort of.
funny because they. Sorry, I was just. It's funny because they uh, are no longer beloved within the progressive communities they have tried so hard to pander to because you know, as it turns out, the whole individualist might is right thing doesn't exactly sit well with those people. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, the weakness, like what's going right now in California, people instead of voting for their safety or equality or something, they voted for somebody who was going to give them welfare, and it turns out they weren't going to give them big chunks of welfare for over nothing. And they're upset. Like, we're not going to even vote for your party anymore. It's like, okay, you know, fell for it in the first place. But look at what happened in 2009 to 16. You had America lost its middle class. it used to be 85% middle class, and now it's 85% lower class. I mean, at the end of that, it's a little higher than that. I don't know what the number is right now. But, so we're sort of towards the thing. It's like the USSR, a lot of these movements, they think, oh, it's going to be good for everybody. No, it's good for a few. It's good for a small percentage of people. And so then everybody works more hours and get whatever, and things are more evened out, but everybody's impoverished and there's no hope. Is that what the people really
Yeah,
want?
they don't understand it's a zero-sum game
And giving the
with
government
money.
more and
It's a
more
zero-sum
control
game.
is like, oh, they'll do what we want. It's like, no, they won't. They'll do what they do, and you've given them the authority to do what they do without your permission. It's not going to go well.
Yeah, they're all totally fine to be equal as long as we're all equally poor. Yeah. Um,
Oh, and the point I was
that
going to
is,
make about the sinister fiction is
sorry.
it's kind of like Lovecraft is almost seen as a prophet, and I know he had nightmares and stuff, so there was experience that mixed into his fiction and philosophy. But they basically took that area and moved it to an area where they kind of blended in crime and sort of making it sound like the criminals were the good guys in most of the stories. Um, or at least some side of the criminals, if there were different sides, but yeah, that's kind of what they did. So yeah, it's not going to attract. It's going to attract a higher incidence of people that are going to get in trouble.
Yeah, well, and I'm not trying to imply that like Satanism is exclusively like a good boy thing. Like I understand. Like I myself look at certain uh characters like Rod Farrell or Caius Veivus or Pazuzu Algarad, and I don't like idolize them and think like everything they did was good, but you can look at certain aspects of their occult practice and you know differentiate that from the dressed up version on social media that is made to sell products and made to sell people's uh like
Well,
they're mid 20 year
different
olds
things will
trying to
work.
sell you their occult course on every religion on the planet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
And
you off.
the idea of using a cult like it's like it's some yeah, the way they use that just like using the term left hand path like it's some, oh, we're the naughty ones. Um
Well, there's some truth in that. I just think you don't dumb it down to just that. That's where these
it's
guys make this.
the idea that things are always safe and ever for everybody and all that stuff, or everybody needs to be the same path and all that. It's that yeah, that's not true. Um, like at the very least, like the entities that a person would deal with, they're not entities that are just, if you just say the magic word, they're gonna just switch to obeying you, kind of like the medieval grimoires make it sound like. It's like if you're a really good Christian, the demons are just gonna convert and they're gonna do what you want and all that stuff. And it's not like that. So draw all the circles you want and stuff. They're not gonna. So might as well, if you're thinking about that, one doesn't, you know, like I personally
I
don't.
agree.
What?
No, I just said I agree.
Like I
Sorry,
personally don't do
continue.
like as far as a banishing, I don't do banishing because of something I did and then I turn around. Like that's one thing I didn't like about the method in the Simon Necronomicon is you throw up the hand sign, the I worship the eldest elder or something like that, and then it's supposed to just more or less nullify what you did, and that sort of ends the thing. And it's like if you're really having the experience, that might not, whatever. But sometimes the experience that you're having is, oh, okay, how many minutes? Less than 10 minutes left. Okay. Um, you know, at the very least, to chase away your experience. You're starting to experience something, and maybe you just need to relax and let it get, or actively go through it rather than actively resisting it or something.
Yeah, I never banish, but I do sometimes give like a, kind of a farewell just to end the ritual. Um,
Yeah,
but since we're low on time,
that's basically yeah, well, that's kind of part of what's sucking up, so I'm not sure. Yeah. But any points you want to make sure to get through, are, because
yeah.
I think we've talked about.
Well, firstly I realized I meant to say in the very beginning, I'm not a member
Yeah.
of Temple of Blacklight. I don't represent any organization at all. Um, I know some people are very quick to point that out. You are not a member. I didn't claim
Yeah.
I was.
Oh, you one of the things that you list as possible talking points, something about insanity and how that's gonna be, or how that comes about.
Yeah. So I know we both sort of said that Xaru kind of wound up going off the deep end. And well, I obviously that was he was always kind of that way. I think no small part of it was due to both these communities and frankly people like me at that age, uh, who didn't know anything and insists to everyone else that they know better. I think that really messed with him because he was, talking to all these people, giving him contradictory ideas. But more than that, I think also legitimately there is a danger of insanity with certain rights. I know he was doing a lot of Lovecraftian stuff, and I've experienced it reading the Aurelia text. It does bring out a primal bestial nature, and
Well, have
if
you
you
ever
don't know how
seen that
to,
Nargargle Schlad video where he's doing a ritual to Cthulhu, asking for our destruction?
I don't really remember much of Nargargle's content, to be honest. I always found it really hard to watch his like drawing things.
Well, some of them were just him drunk saying whatever. And that's why his channel got banned, is he swore enough in those videos that he ended up saying some stuff that was, you know, enough to get strikes.
Ooh.
But I mean, it wasn't just swearing; it was like, have you seen
I
some
was
of
gonna
this?
say it was
Some of the swear. I mean, but it was those sorts of videos. And so drunk and depressed, and talking about mention a weapon or something, and they were back. It's like, have you seen some of the censored videos on YouTube? It's just ridiculous what they censor. It's like you have a song about eating,
yeah.
and you're going to censor the word panties, but leave the rest of the song. Or you have a song about getting back at your bullies, but you're going to only censor the part where they mention the gun. Right? Um,
Yeah, you're not allowed to say anything now.
are a Marilyn Manson song, but they're going to censor one word. Um,
Oh yeah, are you talking about grab your gun
that
or
was
get your
probably
gun, whatever that song is called?
that was probably one of them. But some of the censorship is absolutely ridiculous. Like there's just no sense to what they're cutting out.
Yeah, well, they're trying to make everyone they're trying to coddle people. They want people to be soft and sensitive because it's just easier to control people.
And that, well, it
When
actually,
everything
and it makes a bunch of people that just can't take it anymore, and they lash out, and they're soft to begin with, so that they corral them and lock them up, and they don't have a good time because they're not tough to begin with. They just lashed out for a moment. Like
yeah.
back
Well,
to the
it's a lot of
insanity thing.
these.
Like one of the things that could like when it comes to Hinduism, because some of it's so like it's just as contradictory as the biblical stuff, where you end up with 8 different types of theology in the same book, ranging from monotheism to polytheism, and they're all supposed to agree. And sometimes this entity, so I guess there's some danger in that too. That but I don't think it's going to happen to me. I mean, no one thinks it's going to happen to them, right?
Sure.
Because I'm trying to rationalize it, like, okay, what's the truth behind this? Is how's the use, without necessarily. It's like I don't think I'm ever going to fall for the idea that God incarnated as a 15 and 16-year-old boys, are that sort of because that one ISKCON basically focuses on that upper teens males, a young man running around, and that's how they picture the most part. They don't picture the mature one in the battle. They picture, but well, I mean, the monks lead everything, right? So a bunch of people who have desires but don't have family life and trying to pretend that they don't want it. That's what they're going to picture, right? But some of anyways, the stuff's so contradictory and stuff like that sometimes, and you feel like there's vulnerabilities here and strengths here, and that kind of fights with each other. But I do think,
And you're kind of talking about how just related back to what we were saying. You're talking about kind of how XR went from what went to that whole sort of Satan is Yahweh kind of everything's a contradiction stance. Is that sort of where you're getting with that?
yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean it's not like his points were completely invalid. I just think he was maybe a bit too gung ho about it because like for example in Liber Falcifer, like they have to adapt these things somehow, right? The uh Gnostic scriptures. Uh and it's not going to be perfect. Because it seems like what he would do is he would like there would be like one sentence. It would be like if I read it and there was that sentence where they said that Cain was like the first truly Freemason, and I think that implies like the Temple of Absu, that the current Freemasons are a blasphemy against Cain. But the point is, it would be like if I pointed that and be like, there, boom, got him. They're all Freemasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some of those conclusions did come off like that, like on the video that he posted.
Everything Metallica said and spit out the bone was true.
I think stuff does come through that stuff, whether they do it consciously or not, but you don't know what to do with it. It's not really a source of truth per se. It can get you thinking this stuff. And I do think different people, just like different music, definitely different styles, different people. I know churches shoot themselves in the foot by singing the same songs from the 1300s or the 1800s or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Of course they would too if they were just.
I think, like you were saying before. Sorry.
If they're just copying,
like you were saying before about Lucifer.